Yeah.
Sure.
Nishant, shall we?
We are
Okay.
live.
All right. So, namaste, Sanjeev, and good evening. Welcome to the ODHR Experience conversations that we have every Thursday with HR heads, learning heads, chairmen, and CEOs like you, CXOs. Basically, the idea is to kind of try and gain insights about how to create a great place to work, a great place to learn, a organization which runs on a culture of trust, a culture of failure, a culture of learning. So, congratulations on becoming the chairman of PricewaterhouseCoopers in India. Well deserved. It's been a long journey. I think we know each other for almost 18 years now. When we first met, when I was heading Action Aid, when I had met with you and Deepak, and I've known you from that time, and I know of your work ethic and your devotion and dedication to your work. So, do you have anything to tell us about how it has been after assuming the role of the chairman at PricewaterhouseCoopers in India?
So, Jerry, at the very outset, thank you for inviting me, and good evening to you and to all the listeners. Uh, my journey has been pretty unidimensional, if I can. I joined the firm way back in 1991, and I've stayed with the firm for all these years. And I think it could be said that the main reason that I've stuck around with the firm for so long really has been the fact that every 3 to 4 years I was given a different opportunity or a different role, if I may, and I think that sort of kept you excited, that kept you energized,
Right.
that kept your mental faculties working, and you were always, there were good times, there were not so good times. There were times when I thought the career was moving at too slow a pace. There were times that I felt that there was too much being expected out of me. But at the end, it all balances out.
Right.
I have to say that at one point in time when I actually was thinking that things are not going at the pace at which they should, one of my mentors actually told me that you should look at your journey in an organization as moving from one station to the other. Now, it's important that you get there in time,
Mhm.
absolutely. But if you're going from Delhi to Bombay, does it really matter as to how quickly did you get from Delhi to Jaipur, and how slowly you got in from Jaipur to Bombay? As long as between Delhi and Bombay you reach in the right time or maybe before time. So that's how I'll put it. I think from my perspective, and I have to say that I'm extremely thankful to the organization for reposing faith in me. But this journey has been nothing short of humbling, and all my regard to the institution that PwC is.
Right. So thank you for sharing all those thoughts and what you learned from your mentor and how the journey has been. And we have a whole lot of people who would be listening in to us on Facebook Live, which includes people from several organizations from around India and around the world. And Sanjeev, to begin with, I would like you to, walk us through your life story and your journey of life, right from childhood to teenage days to where you are now.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty boring story, Jerry. So I grew up to a family of accountants, if I may. My father was a chartered accountant by profession, as was my uncle. My father was working for a non-banking financial services company in Delhi, and my uncle had sort of moved abroad. And one of the main reasons that it moved abroad was that we had family debts to pay. So as I grew up as a normal kid, and my father had aspirations for me to not get into accountancy at that point in time, because he felt that there were too many accountants in the family. And he was very keen that I do something on the engineering side. I wasn't, unfortunately, very keen. And so it was. I mean, I sort of passed out of school. I was very keen to learn economics, and that continues to be a passion. So I sort of graduated in economics, and subsequent to that, very candidly speaking, I tried joining MBA, preparing IIMs. I got through some of the written tests, but I could not make through some of the group discussions. And that's something which always stayed with me as the career progressed. And so it was by default. And that's how the life journey has been. Even earlier, if I may, until 12th, grade 12, I did sciences, then I did economics, then I did accountancy. So it's not that a lot of us planned, Jerry, as you can see. But after that, I joined PwC in 1991, and I think after that we have already spoken. It's been a wonderful journey. For me, it's always been a tale of two families. One is the family at home, and of course the family at PwC. The family at PwC I spoke about a little bit. That's 15,000 people strong at the moment, across the various things that professional services firm would do. So audit, what we also call assurance, and advisory and tax. Those are the three lines of business. And at some level, it's the family at work has grown tremendously, and you feel proud to be a part of it. Um, and the family at home has been very, very supportive. I think they have actually sacrificed a lot for me and for the family at workplace, and to enable me to sort of spend that time with them. So all credit to them. My wife Monica, I mean, we've been married over 22 years, and we have two kids. So my daughter Tanya, she's graduating from Berkeley. Uh, in data science and economics, and my son Dhruv, who is in grade 12, and he was waiting for his grade 12 exams to begin sometime in May.
So I lost you for a minute over there after you spoke about Tanya.
Yeah, so no, I was saying that I was mentioning about my son. He's in
Yes.
grade 12,
Yeah.
and he is waiting to sort of give his class 12th exam sometime in May, because they've got postponed due to the pandemic situation. But
Right.
Tanya and Dhruv are my the kids.
Dhruv is your son's name, yeah? Okay. And what does your Sena half do?
Well, she's been a homemaker ever since
Okay.
our daughter was born.
Okay.
She was working with her mother before that,
Hmm.
and again, and I was talking about sacrifices, and that's one of the things. I mean, when our daughter, when we had a daughter back in 2000, she gave that up, and I think credit to her. And then I was mentioning earlier, Jerry, and that I used to spend a lot of time. I still spend a lot of time traveling, and particularly in Bombay. And at times I just feel that that she has been a single parent. So I just cannot uh, thank her enough for being there. And at times, actually, my daughter tells me that Dad, now is the time when you are starting to learn. If I were to tell her something, she will tell me that now is when you're remembering parenting, right? I mean, you should have been with my mother all this while. But it's I cannot credit her enough for bringing up our kids and keeping the family sane and sound all these years.
Right. Right. That's nice, and it's. I'm happy to see that you're very grateful for that effort and the support that she's provided you, because I mean, I think we should all be grateful for that, because the job of working at home and bringing up the kids is much more stressful than the jobs that we do at the workplace. That's what I keep telling the men, especially at several companies where I train and coach. So you've been with PricewaterhouseCoopers now for almost 20, 21 years.
29 years to be precise. So this year.
29 years, 91 to now, yeah. So which tells me that there is a certain work culture which is working for you in PricewaterhouseCoopers, because you've been there for 29 years. So do you want to tell us a little more about the work culture at PricewaterhouseCoopers?
Yeah, so I think Jerry, I think it's about. I mean, we are a people firm. As I said, we have 15,000 people. What is the talent that we sell? It is about the people, right? I mean, and if you look at it, what am I supposed to deliver? I'm supposed to deliver quality in everything that I do, whether it is an advisory engagement or a taxation engagement or whatever else. I mean, that's what I deliver, right, to my clients, and that is what
Right.
creates relevance for my brand and for the firm at large, right? And that relevance effectively can create greater opportunities for you. But you have to deliver quality. Who delivers that quality? that quality is delivered by our people.
Hmm.
And we are a people-centric firm. There is obviously an infusion of technology, etc., etc., but it is the people who deliver. And you need to be able to take care of those people. You need to be invested in them. You need to be invested in talent. You need to, people call, we use a phrase people-centric very loosely.
Right.
I think that phrase is a very critical and important phrase for anybody to understand, because it was people, but it is about people centricity. And when you look at something like HR or something like that, what we call, I mean, it's a very important function, but because it needs to put people at the center of whatever they do. And
Right.
I think that is where it is absolutely critical that one, you are able to invest in talent, and you are able to actually tell them that what is it that the organization really stands for, how is it the organization wishes that they progress, and how is it that the organization sees its progression in the way that their teams progress. Because only if these things are collinear can organizations and people create each other's success. Otherwise it may be that the organization wants to move in one direction, the teams want to move in different directions. And I think that has been the biggest thing for us, that you need to create a culture where people feel that they are the ones who are actually driving their career. There is an aspiration that we set out, that this is what we like to be famous for. It could be technology, it could be, as I said, taxation, it could be management consulting, whatever else it may be, right?
Right.
Depending on what people are willing to join, and we are hiring for. And I think that we set the vision, they embrace the vision, and then it is really up to them, and we enable the talent to flourish. And it could be many things. It could be about upskilling themselves.
Right.
It could be about saying that, okay, become in charge of your careers and be part of that growth story. And to me, it is that culture that we have in the organization, which creates the affinity for people to continue in the organization for long periods of time.
So what is the average tenure of most people in PricewaterhouseCoopers in India?
So I don't think I can rattle off a number right from the top of my head, and it could vary. In all candidness, I think as as that the opportunities have risen. Today, there are many more opportunities. In very candidly, Jerry, in my when the time that I joined the firm, and I'm saying in my time, so there obviously it's obviously getting old. There were only 3 or 4 things that you could do. Today, there are many things that people could do.
Right.
And a lot of people actually want to join, become entrepreneurs in their own right. I mean, they want to
Right.
do their
Right.
own startups and stuff like that. So you can well imagine that that people have more options at this point in time, and I
Right.
think that's a healthy thing, because that
Yes.
ecosystem is very, very healthy. Having said that, I think the retention levels for us, actually progressively keep going up. I think at the early level, maybe maybe they aren't where we would like it to be. But as things progress, I think people see their careers being
Right.
shaped, fashioned, the growth of the organization, and they sequentially get better.
Right. And I completely agree with you that people have choices today, and it's fair that they should have choices, because if they want to move and do a startup, or do something else, they should have the freedom to move.
Yeah.
And that's what great leaders do. You don't retain people by promising them higher salaries just because you want to keep them, and keep your attrition low. Because if people want to move there, they should be free to move. you know uh, from my meetings with you over time, I've seen a certain softness and gentleness in the way you come across with people. So I was very happy to note that you started by talking about people's centricity. Because when I sent out a mail and the post that I put up saying that I'm going to be speaking with my friend Sanjeev Krishan about best practices in HR and OD, I said most organizations are overmanaged and underled. Right? You are a consultant yourself, so you know what I'm talking about. Any insights you want to share on this particular line? Most organizations are overmanaged and underled. What are the kind of insights this generates for you?
Yeah, no. So I think partly, Jerry, it is about leading by example.
Right.
When you say over managed and under led, I mean, I, my mantra has been that you can only demand so much, right?
Right.
If you demand too much, people are just not going to bother and listen to you, right? I mean, my mantra always has been, in some ways, to sort of lead by example. And it's not, and it doesn't mean that, if Sanjeev is working 14 hours a day, I need to work 14 hours a day. But, it is about the focus that you put on anything, any task that you take on hand, right? I mean, it could be done in 6 hours, 7 hours, 5 hours. I do not know. But, the important thing is that you see somebody taking on a task, taking on something which is a little bit harder, and focusing all his energies, and thinking in a very inclusive way, thinking on consulting 20 people, whoever is going to be relevant, etc. Figuring out the wider ecosystem. It could be let's say there's an account to crack. I mean, there's a new client that we need to. What will you do? You could just be pretty straightjacket about it, or you could use what I traditionally call the helmet to helmet approach. If there are 5 people who can help me succeed, am I reaching out to all of them? I mean, or am I'm an extreme introvert who's just going to say that, okay, here I am, I want to sell you this. I mean, it depends on,
Right.
how you, and I think that to me is a big differentiator. You need to lead by example. You need to be able to show that, okay, this is a task, I'm going to approach in this way. Do you have any suggestions for me?
Right.
Would you want to be part of this journey with me? And I think that
Very
always
nice. Very nice.
and I think that's something which has kept me going. And I think the second thing is really about building camaraderie. I mean, when I was managing a small team, or smaller team, and I've managed many smaller teams in my early part of my career, I think it was all about getting the team together, bonding. The bonding in teams is very, very critical. I mean, I can maybe, since you're getting me to talk on this, when we were a smaller team, and I remember my first real leadership experience was when I was leading my transaction services group in Delhi.
Right.
So it's a very, you can imagine, it's a narrow set of people that I was managing, maybe about 15, 16 people. And we used to do potluck dinners, every month. We used to just, everybody used to be given a task to make something. Some people would come together, and we used to meet as families, right? It got the bonding going.
Right.
We knew each other's families, we knew each other's kids. We knew what color preference you have and somebody else has, and so it just got the team together. And we have always stayed together, and that's something that I'm very proud of. I would much encourage much of that to happen across all my teams. I know as you grow bigger, it becomes harder. But the question, Jerry, is that in large organizations, there is, each one of us should think that we are a leader. Because if
Right.
I'm responsible for even one person,
Right.
if I'm
Absolutely.
responsible for
Absolutely.
even one person, then I'm a leader, and that one person is looking up to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I
And
completely
that
agree with
gives
you.
me the opportunity to influence him, influence his life, and actually make a mark on him as time moves on. That's been my mantra.
Very nice. And everything you're saying echoes my sentiments, and it's like music to my ears, because you've been just using the right words. You spoke about investing in people and how organizations need to be people centric. And in my leadership talks and my workshops, I say in most organizations, people are treated like resources or things, and lemons which need to be squeezed to get the juice out. Because you're only focusing on performance and results, and not on the human potential. And the concept is very clear that if you unleash human potential, performance or percentage, which parents focus on, is a manifestation of that. What are your thoughts on that?
So first of all, Jerry, let me just remark, one thing. You mentioned squeeze and all that stuff. I mean, I have never had any cause to do any of that, because the thing is, when you are invested in your people,
Right.
right? I mean, let's say that you and I are a team. Let's say I report into you, and you take the that not all is well with me at home, right? You may be willing to help, you may be able to help, but just the fact that you are caring for that, for me, if let's say,
Absolutely.
somebody at my home is not well, and you're just, you are in my weak moment, right?
Absolutely.
If you are
Absolutely.
with me in that weak moment, that means a lot. You won't have to squeeze me after that. I would be with you in every step of the journey, in the hardest time that you will have, and maybe help you in your aspirations. And I think
True.
that's the important thing. You don't need to, you can juice people, yes, you can squeeze people, you absolutely can do that, right? But should you be needing to do that, or should you make that small investment of that one call or that one message, and and generally mean it. Just don't say
Absolutely.
it
It
because
has to be
you
done
know
with sincerity. Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree. No, please go on. Like I said, you're echoing my sentiments.
So that to me is, what stands out, because if you treat, yes, people are assets, absolutely, people are assets, but people are assets as long as you treat them well, because people are not machines.
True.
There needs to be a heart, and that goes to the point that you were mentioning earlier, that what is the culture of the firm that that you would have. I mean, to me, um, yes, there could be aberrations here, there could be aberrations there, and whatever aberrations are there, one should try and correct them. But the important thing is that at an organization at large is an organization with heart. It believes that you need to sort of do X, Y, and Z things, but it also takes the care of the employee, and it has the right value system. On that, let me just say, Jerry, one particular point, and this is something that as an organization I'm extremely proud of. We came up with a set of values for the firm some time back,
Hmm.
and largely those values that we have come up with are citizen led, are
Okay.
people led. When
Very
we
nice.
when we were thinking as to what is it that the values of the firm should be, those values really were citizen led, in the sense that actually came from feedback, as feedback to us from the people. And I
Right.
think that is something, actually I like to socialize it much more, and actually you've given me a platform to actually say those values were citizen led, those
Very
values
nice.
came from the discussion with people, and I
People.
think that actually defines the culture.
And I had actually assumed all this about you, but I'm so happy to hear you speak this. And this is great learning for all the people who are listening in and watching this, because that's what I had written, that great leaders create more leaders, not followers. Because, like you truly said, even if you're managing one person, even if
Yeah.
you're an individual contributor, leadership is action, and leadership is leading by example. What you role model is what other people would pick up, the negative and the positive. And that's why I always say in my talks that great parents make great leaders, right? Because it's not about saying, it's not about telling, it's about doing. Action speaks louder than words. And then, of course, the other concept of leadership is that leadership is character, and character is rooted in integrity. And integrity is basically what you're doing when no one is watching. And then the other thing which I have seen many managers and CEOs do is that they sit in their glass houses and they create this vision and mission statement along with a few people in the closed coterie, and it's not accepted by people because you have not consulted the people. And I completely endorse what you're saying, that we've created our values, we've created our vision in 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 partnership with the people, because the people have to own it. And if you not engage the people in creating the vision, I use the simple analogy of creating a strategy for farmers in Maharashtra by sitting in a glass house in Gurgaon. It won't work. Your Harvard degree or IIM degree doesn't count, because you need to go and dirty your hands in the soil, learn from the farmers what their pain points are. So I'm very happy to hear you say that, because I always say great leaders don't create visions; they co-create vision. They co-create their mission statement. So Sanjeev,
Can I just
it's
make one point? Can I
yes.
just make one point, Jerry? I think there is also an inherent assumption that many of us have at times, that we
Right.
know it all. I
Absolutely.
think that
Absolutely.
the recognition ought to be that we don't. Most of the
Absolutely.
times,
Absolutely.
I would say all the time, we should know that we don't know it all. I mean, and how would we know it all unless we are not speaking to the person on my right and my left? How
Right.
would I know that? How is he feeling? Right? I mean, there's no communication, and
Absolutely.
communication is very, very critical. I think that's a very critical element, and that communication cannot be just one way. I mean, if the
Absolutely.
communication is one way, if there is no mechanism of feedback, so I mean, just to share with you, we, whenever we, sort of just recently launched a feedback program.
Right.
And I was telling my team that the feedback should go to everybody,
Absolutely.
the who's sort of working with me at some level, because that's how you have the opportunity of learning. And
Absolutely.
if I stop learning, I cannot be in that position, Jerry, that you are saying, any leader. And I think that's one of the things that I would say, that if one has to be a role model, that's the first thing that one should acknowledge, that you do not know everything at any given,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
as much as you.
It's amazing. I mean, my book is not yet published. It's called The Ninth Habit. I mean, my other book on kids as real heroes is published with parenting lessons. And that's exactly what I speak about, that feedback is the multivitamin of champions and leaders for continuous improvement. And I've just completed this book called Mojo Inspirator, which was to be published last year. It's a personal transformation and development book, a self-help book. And in that I write, enlightenment is not thinking that you know everything. Enlightenment, real enlightenment, is knowing that you know nothing and that you need to learn more. Otherwise, you become a sad guru in an ashram, right? And that's the problem with a lot of managers. They open their own little sad guru ashrams in their cubicles. And I'm so happy that you're saying this, because the higher you go, the more important it is to create a culture of feedback. And that's what great leaders do, because otherwise you can get derailed. This is what leading with emotional intelligence teaches you, that the best of minds, the most intelligent people, have got derailed in their life because they don't have a culture of receiving feedback. We love giving feedback, but we don't seek, celebrate, and value feedback. In 2019, I launched this book with at the British Council Learning Week, which was a global learning event that they have, and it was very well received. And I say that you need to kind of continuously improve, because perfection is the biggest lie of the world. None of us as people or individuals can be perfect, which means if the feedback is not coming in, we don't know what we need to improve. And what you rightly said, your direct reports, people who work with you, spend more time with you even than your spouse. So they know exactly what kind of a turkey you are. And if you're not listening to them, you miss the plot, right? So we are absolutely on the same page. Tell me, Sanjeev, and this is for the benefit of all the people who are listening into us, what are some of the best practices in HR and organization development? A lot of people call it OD, or learning and development. I prefer always calling it human potential facilitators, right? Well, what are some of the best practices at PricewaterhouseCoopers that you observe for the past 3 decades almost?
So I think it's changed over the years, Jerry. I think the theme really has been, I would say, continuous investment in people. Because as I said, unless I see investment in me, I would just consider it as a job, right?
Right, right,
To me, as an individual who sort of grew up in the firm, and I mentioned to you that every 3 to 4 years I got a new task. Maybe those they saw some capability, or it was their mechanism to sort of continue to sort of challenge me differently. So the first thing, but when you give somebody a new task, you are investing in him, because it could go wrong, right? And
right,
when you are giving somebody a new task, you need to support him as well to sort of deliver on that task. So to me, I think the first and foremost thing is investment in people. Now, investment could take various forms. It could be technical. It could be technical competence. It could be soft skills.
right,
These days, a lot of focus is going on technology enablement of people, and we
right,
have launched what we call a digital upskilling program. It's called Acing Digital, and I think the idea really is, because digital is all over us, technology is all over us. So one of the things
right,
that we're focusing on is how each of our employees becomes more tech savvy.
right,
The client solutions can also be more productive. So that's one thing. Investing in your people, as I said, across technology, across soft skills, technical skills, so on and so forth. I think that's the first and foremost thing. I think the second thing is that what are the aspirations of the teams at large? The aspiration of the teams at large is that you ought to be doing things in a way which is a bit differentiated. You
right,
should be able to do things across a multitude of a particular BU that you join, right? So the attempt has been to sort of try and get some amount of fungibility going. It is
mhm,
always a work in progress, because as a manager, I might get stuck on the thing that, no, you're good at this, you deliver this. But the endeavor should be that you're trying to create some fungibility, so that the person also, you're sort of aiding the person's growth. I mean, today you have done, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things to do. You are good at 3, not just restrict yourself to the 3, but also try and put your hand up for the 4 and 5, so that you are able to actually work on 4 and 5. And that enablement needs to come from the organization. And the
right,
final thing I would say is the whole focus on respecting diversity and inclusion. I think
right,
that's a very critical element. I think for us as an organization, as a global organization, diversity and inclusion has been a big theme. And when we look at the workforce, I think I would say that in India, we are still, it's work in progress, because one of the things is that diversity in India is always looked upon as gender. I mean, there are
Right.
obviously multiple facets of it, etc.
Right.
But I think that's the important facet, because in trying to do so, you need, when you have a diverse workforce, right? It sort of gets you different points of view, and I think
Absolutely.
the
I like that.
appreciation for that variant in the thought process is actually helpful, and actually makes for a better firm, and actually helps your co-worker as well, and
Very
it
true.
helps the organization at large as well. So I think those are few of the things that you need to follow. And today, when I'm looking at it today, I see the firm, maybe 20 years back, it was, I would say, 95% chartered accountants,
Hmm.
maybe 5 or maybe 98% chartered accountants. Today,
Okay.
I think that's changed. There are a lot of technical people in the organization. And I can tell you, Jerry, that in 10 years' time, it may well be the case, and it possibly will be the case, that we will have lesser accountants in the firm, and we'll have more technical people in the firm.
Wow. So there's a shift happening. There's a paradigm shift happening over there. We're moving from an accounting firm to a like a accounting tech firm now.
Yeah, I
Is
mean, tech is disrupting everything, whether it's education, hospitality, healthcare,
absolutely
everything.
finance,
So
everything. Yeah. So I think that's a great shift, and that's going to happen under your leadership now, right? So
I'll try to enable it at least.
yes, sure, surely, and that sounds very very healthy, because if you're investing in people and very focused on diversity and inclusion, which is the need of the hour, because like you said, diversity and inclusion is not just about gender anymore. Surely we need to include more people from the LGBTQ community at the workplace. It's also about religion, especially in our geography. You can see the polarization all around on social media. They are this, we are this. Them versus us has become very very in the face and stark today, right? So I think we need to basically recruit and grow many people from the Muslim community, which a lot of organizations shy away from, unfortunately. uh, uh, and then we also have a caste system in our where people are still considered as untouchables, right? We are in fact launching a campaign against untouchability later this month, along with many Dalit leaders. And uh, and and I think basically in diversity and inclusion, we formed a group called the Magnificent Seven. This is from a book of mine in the Mojo Inspirator series called Karishma the Miracle. And the premise of the book is that in life we all break at some point and more. But when we break, do we choose to give up and break down, or do we persevere to break through? And all the 150 people featured in the book, the Magnificent Seven is a oratory that we do in offsites and annual gatherings. All the 150 people featured in the book are all far from magnificent. We are all very broken down, but we refuse to break down, so we've broken through. So we also have people from the LGBTQ community. We have a boy who's a homosexual, we have a person who's a lesbian, we have a person who's a hijra. And the whole idea is to say they are all human beings, and they all have human potential. So recognize that, don't ostracize them. And we're trying to break some of those those mindsets which are duplicitous and practice hypocrisy, right? I always say we'll call the eunuchs whenever we're getting married, or when we have a kid who's born at home, but otherwise we kind of try to ostracize them. And this actually happened in a tech organization around 2018 or 19, when the HR head, who was the custodian of diversity and inclusion, abused a boy from the LGBTQ community, and he complained. And I was very happy that she was fired on the spot. This is at Tech Mahindra, right? I won't name her on the forum, but it's out there in the press. Great. So
So just one comment I'd like to make, Jerry. Now, I think it's also about, and I think that also defines the culture of the firm at some level. It is about whether or not you come across as a responsible business.
absolutely,
And
absolutely,
one of the things that, because if I know that my organization is a responsible
right,
organization, right, and it
right,
is giving back to society,
right,
it creates another reason for me to stay connected with the organization.
right,
Maybe
absolutely,
in times when I am in self-doubt, that creates that one differentiator, and I do believe it's a differentiator. So
right,
for instance, to the point that we're making, maybe a bit different. one of the things that we have been doing is with UNICEF, incidentally,
Right.
that we have taken on a goal of getting a lot of people who are going through school education to get some vocational education so that they can actually join the Indian workforce at some level. And
Right.
it's called the Yuva program that we do. And the intention really is to harness the social dividend of the country. We keep talking about the social
Very
capital,
nice.
and if we don't get that employment, it could turn into social curse, for instance. And I think one of the projects that we are running with UNICEF is really to sort of harness the social potential, get them vocational education so that they can join the Indian workforce. And that goes to our responsible organization, aspiration. And I think that again goes to the culture, because I've actually had a lot of people notice this part and feel proud of it. And that also again creates that affinity that we were talking
Right. And I'm very happy that you shared this on the group, because what I'm hearing you say is that you are not just focused on profitability, you're focused on the triple bottom line, which basically means that people and planet come first, and profits would filter out because you are focused on them.
about.
Would I be right? Would I be right to assume that? Because that's what I read in your profile, and thanks to Ruchi and Sue, who are very efficient and effective with sharing this. Because then I think we wrote to them that we want something which is in around 75 words. And one of the things which came across was that you're very focused on sustainability and the causes of conservation. So would it be right to assume that you're absolutely focused on the triple bottom line approach as the chairman of PricewaterhouseCoopers now?
Jerry, that'll be the endeavor. That will be the endeavor. We do a lot of work through our foundation as well, and of course, programs like the Yuva program. But in response to your specific question, I would say this: that I think I would have failed as in the role that I have if I only create financial growth for the firm. It has to be inclusive growth. It has to
Very
be
nice.
a responsible growth, and it has to be growth which just doesn't touch us. It has to touch my team at large, and we have 15,000 people, but it has to also touch society and various stakeholders.
Thank you for that, and thank you for sharing the work that you're doing with UNICEF. Because this book which I wrote, this is my third in the Karma Kari series, and this is called Karma Kari Kid Power. These are all kids from very underserved and unserved backgrounds, all going to the Satya Bharati schools, and all the proceeds from the book are going to the Bharati Foundation. And the reason I decided to write about kids from the unserved and underserved backgrounds is because kids from your home and my home, we have two sons. They should realize that that you should not be entitled about or feel entitled about anything just because you've gone to an expensive school or college, and you think you got good grades and good percentage in your examinations, does not mean that you're entitled to anything under the sun. You have to earn your place in the sun, because there's a lot more talent out there who don't have the opportunity to go to school. So be grateful that you went to school. So the intent of writing this book was, one, to reach out to the kids and say, hey, be grateful for the opportunity that you had and don't think you're entitled. And also to educate the parents and the educators that we need to change our teaching methodology and prepare children for the future, because we're just putting them in the box rather than dissolving the box.
Yeah.
And that's what I shared with you as some of the reading material, because for me, developing human potential does not start, it's not a human resource job that starts in the workplace. It starts from school, right? And if you're not developing, because then that's the pun behind the great parents make great leaders, because the same parent who's putting pressure on the kid to get a high percentage is the parent who's coming to work, right? So you bring the same mindset at work, where you're squeezing lemons again. You're not allowing the child to bloom. You're not allowing the person's potential to kind of be unleashed. And that's where a learning culture comes in. And you've spoken about the learning culture already, but in a lot of organizations, this around this time is when all the HR people and CEOs of many organizations, they love flaunting this uh, certificate which they receive from great places to work. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I find the nomenclature itself to be flawed, because no place can be great to work. Because if you take great places to work just as a nomenclature and compare it with the Gallup study, which has been going on for the past 21 years now, the Gallup study shows you, the crux of the study is that 85% of people who come to jobs worldwide hate their jobs. The percentage went down from 87% to 85% in 2017, which was the 17th year of the study. So that completely contradicts and counters the great places to work culture, right? If you compare many of the organizations in great places to work with Glassdoor, right, it'll show you that it's completely contradictory again. What people have posted on Glassdoor and what the Great Places to Work study is saying about that organization, right? So we felt that the entire nomenclature is flawed. And then when it comes to learning culture, some of the briefs that I get from people in HR and people in learning is appalling, right? Because they basically treat it like a tick in the checkbox, that so many hours done, so many training programs are done for Sanjeev. So we've done our job. Our KPIs are looking good. Hey, that's not the way it is to be treated, right? Or the briefs that I get, take them out whitewater rafting and build us a great team. And I'm like, that's not how you build great teams, because teams are built on relationships of trust. And if Sanjeev does not know the people who is working with properly, what they are, what are the good things happening in their life, what are the challenges that they're facing in their life, and he just tries to get them to perform, it won't work. And you've already spoken about this, right? So we decided that we need to do something which creates a culture of learning, because growth again does not mean just climbing up the career ladder and getting the next promotion and the next raise. Growth also means learning. So many people who climbed up the career ladder have not matured over here. They're still that graduate from some Ivy League institute or a IIM who think they know it all, right? Because maturity happens over here, right? So there's still those lemon squeezers who are squeezing lemons, they're getting results met. They're, but the productivity is not very high. The engagement of people is not very high. And this is the struggle of 90% of organizations worldwide. Trillions of dollars which are lost because employees are not engaged, or employees are working in silos, because it's all fiefdom, especially in a feudal country like ours, where we treat our division like our own little fiefdom, right? So that's where we decided that we're going to create something called great organizations affirm learning, because research shows you that when you create a culture of learning, a culture of trust and engagement automatically sets in. And we've taken all the principles from Peter Senge's fifth discipline. What are your insights on this book called The Fifth Discipline and the principles that Peter Senge advocates in the book?
So I think I alluded to this a little while back. To me, I think it's got to do with having a shared vision. I think it's
Right,
important that you need to have a shared vision, because unless you have a shared vision, how do I drive any kind of behaviors, right? I mean, and that's where I was mentioning that you we are together in this journey. You might have a position, I might have a position, but where is it that we are going? I mean, let's say you are rowing a boat. I mean, you are rowing in one direction, I can't row in the other direction. So I think that shared vision and that shared purpose, to my mind, is one of the most important thing. And the second one, really, to me, really is the continuous learning process that one needs to go through. And I think
right,
unless and until you are actually feeling that I am contributing to your growth, it doesn't work, because then it's a very transactional kind of a relationship. As long as you give me, well, whatever, I mean, you take care of me, you pay me good money, I'm with you. The moment that you don't, I sort of move away and find somebody else, I find another hook. I think it's about the continuous learning and development, and being part of that journey of an individual's growth, right? I mean, we all, as any individual, as we go through our careers, there are various challenges. There is a personal piece also which sort of challenges us. How can we be part of that journey with people? So let me give you one example, just to bring the point. uh, and again, that goes to the value set that I spoke to you about, Jerry. And something that I'm pretty happy that to have made happen. You know, when I was, and this is the same group that I was referring to, that my transactions group in Delhi, we had a bunch of women employees, and we were all growing, and they got married, and some of them were in the family way, and few of them wanted to join back work after they felt that they should. It required certain sponsorship. to get them back to work. Some of them
Right.
started half the time. And I think, I feel so good when I look back that I played a small part. I won't take the entire credit, I shouldn't. But I played a small part in them getting back to work. You know, when, I think that as a society, we sort of still, can do a lot better. I think we've got much better than we were in the past, but it still requires some sponsorship. And, I think that sponsorship, if we can drive institutionally,
Right. Right.
there cannot be a better response.
Absolutely. Because again, you're building a culture of trust, you're building relationships of trust, because that's what teams are all about. It's not about that whitewater rafting and games people play at offsides, ha ha he hoo, and then the moment you come back to the workplace, the other games begin, right? So I think people especially people who are in the OD and HR should understand this, that you need to create a culture where people thrive rather than feel stifled. And thank you for sharing that example with us, because there's a lot of learning and insight in that. The other trend that I've seen in most organizations, especially in India, is that we tend to focus and invest in the high pots, the high potential people, and the hypers, which are the high performing people, right? And then they are told that you are the chosen one who's been selected to go for this training program. Well, the
Yeah.
entire concept of learning is everyone right from the top to the person who's just joined as an intern, everyone has to be trained. And the so-called soft skills and leadership skills are actually the most toughest and the hardest skills, which many people have not received, because the schools and colleges don't teach you emotional intelligence or empathy or human values and ethics anymore, right? So what are your thoughts that you want to share on this? What is the culture that you have at PricewaterhouseCoopers? Is it again a hyper culture, or is there investment happening in every person?
So let me start by giving an example, Jerry. Way back in the 1980s, 90s, when you look at Indian cricket, and we are all cricket fans, there were a couple of superstars. There was a Kapil Dev, there was Sunil Gavaskar, and so on and so forth. But we still never won as many games outside the country in particular, right?
Right.
Maybe many teams did not. Today, we have a team which has a few superstars, but there are many who are around there. Now, why that has happened is people might say IPL or whatever, but there's a lot of focus on that development. There's a lot of focus on what we call India A tours, under 19 tours, etc., etc. That investment was made by the cricket authorities, right? And that's why they're coming up the curve. So, in spite of having few superstars, we are now able to win much more. And I think that is the point that I wanted to make.
Very
Just having
nice.
a few superstars will
Absolutely.
never make for a winning combination, winning team. Yes, you might win. A couple they might perform, or a Gavaskar might perform, and you might win one day. Maybe you will win 2 or 3, out of 10. But can you win consistently? Without the entire team, you can never win consistently. And I think that to me, my response will be summed up in that you can never win
Brilliant.
by investing in a few.
Absolutely. It takes everyone. It takes everyone to deliver that vision. It takes everyone to have those goals met. And if you've not broken down the action plan and expectations for everyone and just assume that they would do the job based on the job description that they have, you actually mess them up. It's not they who have failed to do the job. It's you who have failed them as a leader. I completely agree with you, because you've not paid attention to every single person in the organization. And I think that's great learning for everybody who's listening, in that it takes everyone to deliver results. It takes everyone to deliver that vision.
And another example that I'm compelled to say, when given a chance, what was called an India A team in Brisbane wins a
Yes,
game at a crunch
absolutely.
moment. I mean, there can't be better examples.
Absolutely, and there is huge research to show to kind of prove this, especially after what happened on 26th of November 2008 in two hotels which are probably within 3 miles of each other, right? You had one hotel where most of the employees left, which was the Oberoi's, right? And you have the Taj Hotel where no one left. In fact, employees who are outside the hotel went into the hotel, even though they knew that there is a threat to their own lives. They went into the hotel to save guests. So that actually tells you that a certain culture at the workplace engages people and commands, not demands, but commands their loyalty, earns their loyalty, right? And this is exactly what Peter Drucker had said, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. What are the thoughts that this statement provokes for you?
I think, Jerry, that's something which has become a management mantra,
Right.
for many of us as we have grown up. And I think clearly that is how it resonates, because unless you have the right behaviors and the value system, um, as I said, there could be some brilliant things that you are capable of, but if you don't have the right value system, if you don't have the right culture in the organization, you know the good work that you could do will get undermined.
Absolutely.
Unless there is inclusiveness, right? Unless there is ability to take everybody's point of view and move the firm together, it will not work. As
True.
I said, there could be spots of brilliance which could sort of get you a feeling of victory today, but that consistent feeling, I would much prefer that an organization stays together and loses a game or loses an opportunity, loses a bid, than a team which is dysfunctional and where there is upmanship, gamesmanship, and it tries to win.
True.
Any winning by upmanship, gamesmanship, to my mind, that victory is actually a loss. And I would much
It's
rather lose and
absolutely.
keep the team together.
That's very short term because it's not sustainable. Absolutely. And it completely resounds with what I speak in several workshops and in my leadership talks, that leaders create more leaders. They don't need followers, right? It is only if, because if you're not creating leaders, that's the other trend which I've observed in many organizations, that rather than creating leaders from within, whether it's for the CEO's job or for the vice president or the key roles which need to be filled in, HR is always looking outside, which means that the people within have failed the organization to create that leadership within. You have the classic example of Infosys, right? And like you said, Vishal Sikka, superstar, what could he do? It takes everyone to deliver the results, and people are not accepting the outsider in the system, because somewhere we are very xenophobic as people, right? So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you see leadership being built at every level in PricewaterhouseCoopers? You have been there for 30 years and you become the chairman now, but let's say tomorrow there are some key roles in PricewaterhouseCoopers. Would the people rise from within, or would you have to look outside?
Well, I think, in all candidness, Jerry, I think there are two parts to that question. So the easier part is that, okay, there is a white space. Let's say there is a segment that we don't serve, etc. You possibly, why only the leader, but competence also you'll need to get from outside. Having said that, let me just say that if we can't find leaders ourselves,
Right.
then this means that we have done a horrible job of coaching people, of coaching talent.
Right.
And everything that I've said so far about investing in people, about investing in their growth, and most importantly, when we say that we will have people-centric talent, technical, soft, technology, whatever. How can I say that? I can't say any of that because I've not been a part of their growth story. I've not sort of helped them move from being somebody who starts off as an analyst, goes to being a manager, and then actually goes to a position of leadership. We
Very
need
true.
to be part of that journey for them. And
Very
if
true.
I can't find that leader, this means that I have created managers and I've stopped investing in their development, which
Very true.
is going to be a big
that you all specialize in, those specialists should come from within. And thank you for sharing those insights. And finally, on leaders create more leaders. What are the best practices that PricewaterhouseCoopers promotes to kind of create a culture of trust, create a culture of leadership?
So Jerry, that's a fantastic question, and I think the response really is that, as I said, anybody who is responsible for even one career, we call them people managers, and I think they have the responsibility of making sure that they own up the growth and development of that one person, even if you're responsible for that one person, his or her journey. And I think that is something that, and you in an organization, that cascading ought to happen at some level. So you might say it's also administrative convenience, but it is also about saying that every person in the organization has somebody that he or she can go to say that, okay, this is how I'm feeling, this is what is happening in my career, I think I'm getting towards, or I'm thinking that I'm missing XYZ, I need to do ABC things for my career to flourish. So in a way, that people manager is supposed to own the career of that one person. Invariably, there are many people that people manager actually is responsible for, and I think that's one of the things that I'm absolutely proud that we do. Um, can we do better? I think we definitely can. I don't think that we have sort of got this completely right. I mean, there is obviously work to do, and as in any organization, I think we could do things better. There is stress because people are, there is a job to do, and then you're taking care of people's careers, etc., etc. Maybe at times people are not able to spend enough time, and we continue to work on it. But yes, that's something that we do, Jerry. And the other thing which sort of, in some ways is a response, I feel it works very well is, as I was mentioning earlier, walk the talk, walk
Absolutely.
the talk and lead by example. I mean, if you walk the talk and if you're able to lead by example, that creates that impact on that person who's watching you all the time.
True.
Right. And
Very
there are going to be times when the person is going to fail. I mean, it's not as if that I'm going to be successful all the time. I have not been successful all the time, right? But did my team lose trust in me? Did my superiors lose trust in me? They gave me their opportunity to fail and recover.
Very
As a famous adage goes, that you can be successful only if you have seen failure.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that is one of the key aspects of helping people come through the curve.
And I think I'm so happy that you shared that, because in a lot of organizations, failure is not tolerated, right? And people don't realize this, that if you don't have a culture of failure, people will never change the game. People will never innovate. People will never experiment and try to do things differently. So I'm happy that you brought this aspect of how people have supported you, because it's important to fail, learn from that, and try again. And that's what we call as a culture of failure, to make honest mistakes and grow from there, right? So thank you for sharing that, Sanjeev. We have with us JC Desai. JC is from Tangram Consulting. They basically specialize in research, and they are a partners for the great organizations Affirm Learning Ratings, what we are calling as goal ratings. Because what our focus is to make the organization's primary goal to create a culture of learning, which in turn would impact a culture of trust. Because when you help people to learn, you build relationships, and your knowledge also increases up to 95%, is what studies show. While in a lot of organizations, people are averse to sharing their knowledge because they think that the dependency of the person on them will reduce. It's not like that, because when you actually share knowledge, people kind of build bonds, and it also increases your knowledge. So we have JC and Tangram Consulting, which is working with us to create the parameters for the goal ratings. So JC is going to fish for some insights and pick your gray cells on how we could improve the parameters for the goal ratings. Over to you, JC. That is Sanjeev Krishan, chairman of PricewaterhouseCoopers India.
Thanks, Jerry. Hi, Sanjeev. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
You are. The new
Okay.
Maha Mantra of the year. Am I audible? Am I visible? Okay, over to you, JC.
So thanks, Sanjeev, for joining us. I just have a couple of questions on. So we're working out this the survey, the questionnaire, and also want to have a couple of in-depth interviews across organizations to get a kind of holistic picture. So I wanted to ask you if, when you look at evaluating an organization that is focused on learning, um, what are the key parameters that you would just not miss in terms of, understanding organization that affirms learning? Any thoughts on key evaluation parameters?
So, the only thing that I can think of is, how do you define that that learning process? To me, I think as long as it is not, sorry, not unidimensional, but a little bit more holistic, I think that possibly is important. I think when you look at, there can be, of course, organizations who are actually focusing on a niche. Sorry, and that could be another thing, but otherwise it has to be a little bit more holistic, and they need to be focusing on things which are a little bit, which are creating holistic development of a person. Now, what would that mean? It would mean, as I was discussing with Jerry earlier, it could mean that there is a part to it which is a tech part. There's a part to it which is the software aspects of it. There are these parts today which are more technology oriented. So if one is looking at a composite organization, one would expect it to create that holistic, that opportunity for all-round development of a person, right? I mean, we keep saying that, I could be great in the subject matter. I could be great at the subject matter, but I may not be one who's able to have a conversation with you because I grew up as an introvert, right? It could be that needs to be facilitated. It could also be that I'm again great at the subject matter that I have, but I'm not able to connect the dots, right? If let's say, and I'm saying that I'm putting in context of my organization, let's put it that way, that if my manager is great at delivery, whatever advisory, tax, whatever he delivers, but he's unable to converse with his peer group, with clients and others, as to what is the impact of, let's say, the geopolitics of the world, right? And what is the impact that it has on a particular client, which means that he's not thinking about it, or if he's thinking about it, he does not have the confidence to talk about it. I think that is something which I would respect a lot, and an organization which encourages that kind of a learning process is something that I would rank very high. If I hope I got your question right, because maybe I missed it, but that's the kind of organization that I would rank very high.
The one fact that comes to mind listening to you is, you're talking about how to build an individual's confidence and help them to express what they have to, right? So in case of, let's say, I don't think our population is, I'm sure there are enough introverted, less expressive people. How to draw them out is also one of the aspects that you're talking about, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
So just like how, with respect to an individual, we look at, when we evaluate an individual, we would look at social, financial, spiritual, then the individual, different aspects of the individual. What else would you include in terms of an organization to evaluate the organization's predisposition to learning? What else would you add?
I think one is most important. I would say is the respect. And in some ways, I think it's absolutely critical for me that there is respect. For everybody in the organization, right? I mean, like the previous point that I was mentioning. I might be somebody who's composite. I might be somebody who's getting up the curve. My aspiration would be that I should work with everybody's development. But if I'm not somebody who's got to that position yet, I am a work in progress, right? But that doesn't mean that if just because I'm happen to be in a position which is superior to somebody else's, I treat that person, him or her, with any less respect. And I think that is most important in today's world. To me, that again goes to define the culture of the organization. And I have to say that an organization in which you respect that there is diversity, there is inclusiveness, And most importantly, there is respect for people who might be at different levels of progression or evolution of what an ideal person at that position is. Because not
Yes.
everybody is equal. All the fingers in my hand are never equal. They will never be, right? And I need to respect that each one of them has a job to do. But yes, my aspiration could be that I need to get them to a particular level, right? I mean, they need to do together something together. When I sort of get them together, how can I harness them? As long as I'm clear about that, each one of them can have different jobs and roles.
Okay. No, it's interesting that your focus with regard to learning is so much on the individual and the individual's growth, right? That's in fact what we want to understand through this survey, also through this evaluation process. So one of the specific questions that we wanted to include, and it's a very qualitative kind of aspect, which is to understand the person's motivation. So besides being work in progress, different individuals are at different levels of being work in progress. Besides that, to what extent, what drives them? So if we look at, we are going to refer to Dr. Halen's model on motivation, and he talks about the need to express versus the need to repress and honor social individual paradigm. And he has 8 different motivation that comes up. And so, evaluating an individual's motivation, whether he is driven by, let's say, to control the world around him, to do things as dictated by the world, or he's a person driven by recognition. Anything he does is to gain respect in the society, or he's a person driven by exploration. He wants to, express his own talents or his own thoughts and, those kind of things. Or he's a person who's very family focused, social focused, and wants to give back to the society. So irrespective of what stage in life in terms of learning they are, we also want to include this level of individual analysis to get an understanding of how his expression kind of syncs with what the organization is looking for him. Now, this is a very, like I said, it's qualitative, it's difficult to evaluate. But what do you feel? Would this kind of bring in that extra, edge to this kind of an evaluation? What do you feel? Or it's better to trash it kind of thing?
Well, I would keep it reasonably simple, JC. I mean, in my mind, I think, as I said, the respect for the different positioning that each one of us have, the different pace at which each one of us progress, the different challenges that we deal with. I mean, we talk about workplace, what we do at the workplace. Equally, we talk about how are we feeling. I mean, this pandemic has taught us also about mental well-being. And what is the relevance of being a social animal and being part of families and the support that we get. So, like the point in case really being that what is the what are the challenges that the person is going through at the workplace. Now again, I cannot take at his home, for instance, sorry, not at the workplace, at home. So I mean, I cannot possibly solve all his problems at home, but am I in some ways having empathy for whatever that person is going through in his personal life is something which is, to my mind, a factor. Yes, how well the person is doing, how well is he taking on to all the learning and the investment and the development that I'm putting in him. All those are great factors. But I think there has to be some amount of focus on the empathy that the organization has with the person because of the circumstances that he or she has, right? And all of us, I feel that all of us are very, very proud individuals. Unless I really have a challenge on A, B, or C thing, we want to be strong. Publicly, we want to be very strong figures, right? But if I have a genuine issue, if I have a challenge, etc., that empathy that organization can show will go a long way. And I think that actually will create, again, that affinity to the organization. And from an organizational standpoint also, it will create that culture that this organization took care of me in my softer times when I was having a challenging, let's say, domestic situation or so on and so forth. And I think that empathy really goes around.
Thank you so much, Steve. That's all from me, and we won't take up more of your time. Jerry,
Thank
you're back.
Yes, thank you so much, JC. Brilliant and great insights that you shared. And I'm very happy that you spoke about empathy, Sanjeev, because research shows you that the most essential skills of the future are to develop a growth mindset, because most of us have grown up with a fixed mindset. This is from Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. I've covered this extensively in the Mojosh Inspirator lessons, especially for parents and educators. The second big essential skill of the future is learning to learn, which basically means how do we help people to learn? How do we teach them to learn? Because in most schools around the world, we go to school and college and we study, we don't learn. There is a difference between studying and learning. And because we study just to get a percentage and a degree, right, we end up not understanding the concept of learning and learning to learn. So that's the other most essential skill of the future. Uh, the third most essential skill of the future is empathy. And it is like, a very strange feeling that one gets when you hear this, because human beings are mostly born with empathy. But what research shows you is that as we climb the ladder and we start achieving and accomplishing more in life, the empathy goes down and the apathy goes up. You can see it with the silence of the celebrities in India. They're all silent. They only spoke out when there was some government request which went up to them, because they spoke out about how we need to kind of tackle our own internal matters. The farmers' protests are not an internal matter, it's a global human rights issue. So let's wake up to that. So you have a whole lot of celebrities from outside supporting it, but people inside are sleeping, right? And it's complete apathy, complete silence, right? So empathy is the other big, most essential skill of the future. And then finally, emotional intelligence, because many jobs that are relevant today will be redundant tomorrow, because they'll be lost to AI. And only jobs which require emotional intelligence will be relevant in the future, right? So parents don't understand this, because we are actually kind of preparing children for jobs which won't be there in the future. And research done by the World Economic Forum, Harvard, HBR, etc., said that the gig economy would take over in 2030. Most jobs would be lost to AI by 2030. I always said 2025. The pandemic has brought it closer home. It's 2020 now, right? So many people who've lost jobs there. I mean, industry chambers have estimated around 12 crore jobs lost. I think it's going to be much more, out of which 75%, which is around 9 crore jobs, are small traders and the labor that works with them. And around 3 crore jobs, they're saying, are white collar jobs. My real brother, who was based in Dubai working with Etihad, worked with them for 15 years, lost his job after 15 years, right? He was at the top of the food chain in customer service, but now has moved to London and has started right at the bottom of the food chain again, right? So it's going to be a tough time after this pandemic, and people are not prepared about, or not even kind of geared up to understand what's going to hit them when the pandemic actually kind of gets lifted completely, right? So I think it's interesting that you spoke about empathy, because it's about how do you kind of understand the pain of others, understand the problems that they could be facing, because when they are facing those pain points and problems in their personal life, they can't perform in their professional life, right? So it's helping them to get over that, and that's what you spoke about. I'm very happy that you brought all those thoughts into this forum, because that's what leading with emotional intelligence is all about, right? And thank you so much for making the time to be with us. Pleasure learning with you. And I look forward to seeing you soon, Sanjeev. And all the best once again for your journey going forward as the chairman of PwC India. I'm sure the organization will flourish much more under your leadership. And I'm sure you'll create many more leaders at PricewaterhouseCoopers India. Thank you so much. And thank you to your colleagues, Sue and Ruchi, who uh, kind of been a great support. And pleasure having you with us, and look forward to seeing you soon. If there are any closing insights you want to share with all of us, please feel free to do so.
No, thank you, Jerry, for giving me the opportunity. It was really a pleasure to talk to you and to JC. And yeah, I mean, it's we're all looking forward to sort of start doing some in-person interactions, and I look forward. And I wish you all the best, and all the listeners and participants all the very best as they move forward. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
thank you to everyone for tuning in, and thank you so much, Sanjeev. Have a great evening. My regards to Monica, Dhruv, and Tanya.
Thanks, Jerry.
Take care. Bye bye. See you. Bye bye.